Hello and welcome, everybody. I am Ben Hanson, joined by Dan Tack.
That's right, I'm here.
That's right, we got Ben Reeves here as well.
That's me.
We're here today to talk all about Captain America Civil War, which just came out. Specifically, we're here to spoil the bejesus out of it.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Watch out.
We all saw this movie last night.
We did.
That's right. We're all bleary-eyed. I got to admit, I'm a little tired today because of it. Because we went at like 11 p.m.
And we got
so
it
I
at
didn't get
2.
home until like,
So that's a good way to start. It's a lengthy film.
It is.
Because in theory, we're all very excited to see the new Marvel installment with Captain America Civil War.
That's right.
We have not talked at all about it. Dan Tack,
Correct.
I sat next to throughout the film, and he had a lot of sighing, a lot of heavy breathing.
You know me, I express myself in ways when I see things. I have responses, okay?
I'm sure if the lights were on in that theater, I could see your eyebrows darting all over the place. Like, really?
They probably would have been. yeah.
Really, Marvel? So I don't know what you even think of this film. So that's a good place to start.
can start
What do you
there.
guys think of this?
Overall, I am majorly positive on the film.
Majorly
Overall,
positive.
Overall, I thought the actual Civil War action sequence was great. Best part of the movie, hands down. I did not like the third act as much.
Really?
That's where we delved into territory that, yes, I know it's a comic book movie, but suspension of disbelief was sort of absurd during the final segment where it's like, where the main villain monologues, I'm going to make you do this. This is how it's going to end. And then they do it. And it's like, he just told you this is what he's going to do, and you did it anyway. You guys are stupid.
There's a lot to unpack here. Reeves,
yeah,
high
we
level
should
quick.
back up a
What
little.
did you think here?
I thought it was fine. No, that's for
God,
Tech.
unbelievable.
I
do
thought
hate
it
that.
was fantastic, actually. I went in kind of expecting a lot just because like the hype train was off the charts on this one.
Yeah.
And man, I keep going back and forth on like if it could be like the best Marvel movie.
Yeah, so you're kind of
So I'm kind of like way up there. Like one of my favorite before this was probably the first Avengers and like the first Iron Man are both.
okay,
like, high on my
not
list.
Captain America, the first Avenger, but the first Avengers.
The first
film.
Avengers film.
Okay,
yes,
got
the
it.
Joss Whedon film,
Very
which I
confusing.
liked a lot. So
I'm with you. You're like kind of the resident comic book nerd. Dan Tack is a film expert. I'm more on the film side of things, but I like these Marvel movies a lot more than I should. But my favorite.
why shouldn't you? They're great.
I know.
I think we all agree that they were good then.
Yeah,
As we get
I
Hanson's
really-
take
Let's
here.
agree. Video is closed.
I liked the Avengers. It's always been my favorite Marvel film. I think it still stands as my favorite. I think it's the most fun. This Civil War is probably number 2. Dan Tack, do you have a ranking in mind?
Iron Man is my favorite.
First Iron Man.
First
Okay.
Iron Man.
Just solid,
Yeah.
simple.
It's just that was just so on point. And
Even the whole
almost
Jeff
every-
Bridges thing.
I was about to say, you're right. The Jeff Bridges thing was kind of silly at the end, right?
Yeah.
But come on, like the rest of the movie was perfect. I can forgive those 10 minutes of stupidity at the end.
All right, that's a strong movie as well. It seems like a lot of the same movies are coming up. So like this movie is like kind of like in that tier.
It's in the
my
god
mind.
tier of
Right.
Marvel's universe. And Reeves, I specifically want to talk to you just because you are such a comic book nerd, specifically a giant Spider-Man fan.
Yeah.
You've described yourself as a spider nut.
Spider Nuts.
And it might be a stretch to say that I got choked up, but I had a twinge of emotion seeing Spider-Man in there, especially during the big fight scene, just thinking specifically of all the people that have loved Spider-Man for so long and have been so distraught about like, God, I want to see him combined with the other universe and it's never going to happen. And then having the legal just rigmarole go
Finally.
through the works and finally this can happen.
it's such a like comforting like hug or something. You know, it's
Yeah,
like the
you can-
best like feeling. The name Homecoming for the next Spider-Man movie. I'm not a huge fan of, but like I get the sense of like he's back in the fold.
You could feel the energy in the theater when he was swinging. I mean, I think there was some smattering of applause around there.
There was, and I really liked the way they integrated him into that scene. But I gotta say, I thought the forces he was up against there, he was a little too proficient. All right, and this is like a nerdy quip. It's a quibble. All right, I absolutely loved that. That scene was so good, like across the board.
The airplane or the airport fight scene.
The actual Civil War scene, right? It was great.
there's some scenes,
I'd watch that all day.
Yeah, I think Spider-Man, the fact that he went toe to toe with some of these guys, like
Because
I went
so-
shiver up my spine. I was like,
and
this is
canonically, he was what? I think he says in the movie that was like 6 months after his thing, right?
Right.
awesome. Yeah.
There's
after
no
he
way
gets
he
bit
would be able to
by
go toe to toe with some of those
he
guys.
should be in the wrestling ring still. Is that what you're
I mean, they still played it up. He was nice as like sort of the comic relief. Like, hey man, I'm kicking ass with these guys. Woo!
You know, he took a few hits too. I mean,
did,
It's
no.
not like he was flawless. Like,
Oh, certainly not. But like, I'm just saying.
Well, I not being that familiar with the comic book world, Reeves. I mean, the part that really shocked me was when he grabbed Winter Soldier's punch. Where it's like, that's how strong he is? Something that like Iron Man and Captain America can barely do?
Oh well, Iron Man could do it, but like, yeah, he's probably stronger than Captain America. I would say, like
Spider-Man?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
He's
I
got
don't know
super
about this.
spider strength. He can like
Wait,
lift
Tack,
cars over his head and stuff.
I don't think I knew that.
Really?
He can swing stuff around.
I mean, everybody has super strength. Like, yeah,
Well,
you
you've
ever
seen
notice
the
that?
old Spider-Man films? Like he's doing crazy stuff there. Like maybe his
Nothing
strength
ever is
isn't-
crazy because it's so much of. I mean, the last two Captain America movies now have been like Winter Soldier. When he punches stuff, he breaks through walls.
That's the
all
Winter
he
Soldier.
does. Yeah, all he does is block bullets with his hand, which is a recurring theme throughout this film is blocking bullets with small metal objects. Like literally, Winter Soldier walks towards people unloading and just holds his little hand out and blocks all the bullets.
He is the Winter Soldier.
And then Falcon is just holding up his little wings, like walking backwards towards soldiers.
Well, I like that scene actually where he grabs the punch, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess he would be probably one of the stronger, physically the stronger characters in this like bunch.
I had no idea. And that's the kind of fun thing to see, like juxtaposed to everything else.
Physically stronger, yes.
So you had a nerd thrill.
I definitely did. So it was fun. Like, there's that scene where he's like fighting with Captain America too, and I was kind of like, "Oh my gosh!" This is like, and Spider-Man's freaking out a little bit. It was like, "Oh, Captain America, I love you!" And then like
Right.
I was at the same time. I was like, "This is really cool." Like, it's like that when the first Avengers happened, and you see this mishmash of all these characters, all these heroes, like finally come together, and like Thor and Hulk fight, and you're like, "This is awesome!" Like, that's what this was again on a larger scale.
So we can all agree that scene.
It seems like we just want to talk about the scene. This is
I mean,
the money shot
That
for
was
Civil War.
right. So we all agree that was the best part of the movie by hands down, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
there's definitely
probably.
parts that I love about other
Sure.
sections of the movie, but that fight scene and just having all these characters, and my favorite is when they would go up against each other, and I forget who it was. I think it was Hawkeye, where he's just like, I don't think we've met. Like, as they're fighting,
That
just
was
like,
Hawkeye and Black Panther.
okay, just
Yeah.
trying to piece together, like,
And he said-
who knows who, what is this web, how, I forget what your relationship is with your relationship, but, I mean, it's downright silly. And this is the thing, also rewatching Winter Soldier, is seeing that film, and it does such a good job of being a political thriller, and then there's moments where it's like, oh, that's right, this is a comic book movie.
Yeah.
And that scene was very much like, hey, just in case you're really entangled in this plot about, the rights of Americans and, having rogue combatants overseas and whatnot, just to remind you, this is full-blown comic book movie, and there's just going to be panels where it's going to be these two characters fighting. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing, how many people Vision could kill immediately if he wanted to. Just disregard that. Let's just look at how cool it is when these two go up against each other.
Thought like script-wise, it was one of the stronger scripts. Like
Yeah.
just like story and plot, and like the characters interacting with each other. I was like really engaged by the story. And I don't think it's like the funniest script or anything. Like it's not
this is
Joss
the
Whedon,
thing.
but there were some good jokes.
Yeah, for sure. I think a couple takeaways there is seeing these characters together. I think I'm so used to the Avengers films now and the amount of Whedon quips.
Oh, yeah.
That it felt like, oh boy, this is a little drier than I expected, especially
Right.
just because so many people are stacking it up against, very naturally, Batman v Superman. And with that film, it's just like, oh, it's joyless.
Compared to that, it's a laugh a minute. Yeah.
Well, exactly, but because this was seen so much as like the antidote for all that ails you in the Batman v Superman world, I was expecting it to be more jokey. And the first third of that movie, there's like
there were
action
plenty of
hero
jokes.
got that
Plenty
weren't
of jokes.
great.
You've always got
Right.
Stark in there to keep things.
Stark has a few good one-liners.
And then Spider-Man.
and then Spider-Man and Ant-Man show up. And
Yes,
like it gets.
the Ant-Man was just crazy, silly
There were
good. Right?
parts though, especially during that like big fight scene in the airport that we keep talking about, where it almost like switches tone dramatically, and you're like, oh, this almost feels like we're in the Ant-Man film now. And it's just like you had this like serious Captain America action scene, and then all of a sudden it feels like, oh, the tone's different now. Ant-Man's doing something wacky.
This is my big takeaway: is it's fascinating to have a film that I think it's up there with Deadpool as being a commentary on superhero movies. It's like, let's stop and unpack what's been going on here a little bit. Obviously, Deadpool is more fourth wall breaking and more of a commentary. But I mean, the setup for this movie being like, hey, you idiots, you've killed so many innocent people. And it gets dark. Dan Tack, save your head shaking.
I am.
It gets dark and serious talking about the repercussions to all this. And it's so weird to then jump back to, hey, let's make some jokes during an action scene again. And I understand there's not millions of people dying in that airport fight scene and stuff, but it felt like the setup for the film, and I think running throughout a lot of it, seems like they're one step away from making fun of the fact that they make so many jokes during the fight scenes, and then to have that tone side by side with, let's make a bunch of jokes during these fight scenes.
yeah.
It felt a little bit strange.
And then you have a super serious third act, which
Right.
I don't know. Do we need to back up at all and like kind of
I
do
can
the
talk.
overarching
The third act, I think, was the
plot?
weakest.
No,
Do we
I
set
think
anything
people who
up?
have watched this have seen it. And
Probably
if they haven't,
seen
they
the
can piece
film.
stuff together.
Yeah, if they're
Okay.
watching a spoiled, a spoil-filled
All right, we're just talking
adventure.
about the movie like you would talk about the movie, like friends talk about movies.
Yeah, as if we're friends. But Dan Tack,
As
if
if.
we were friends.
let's break
That's
down
right.
that third act now.
Sure. So, I mean, this is one thing I'll start with. I think it would have been stronger if War Machine just would have died.
Absolutely.
That's not like a qualm or anything. I just think that would have made a lot more impact.
He
than
did
just
fall a long way.
right, but then it's like I've got Iron Man technology, and we'll get him back up to speed. It's okay.
Real quick though, I love when he hit the ground. Is that moment? It reminded me of like Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Because we all thought one of them was going to catch him on the way
Right.
down, and he didn't, and that was great.
That was a great moment. Like the theater was like, oh, like when he actually
Yeah.
hit. And then when Falcon is walking up and Iron Man's
Iron Man
like,
just
nope,
drops
just
him.
shoots
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
It's like it's Chewie shooting Kylo Ren. You know, just like F you, buddy. Like I love just like that quick reaction there.
Yeah.
One of my favorite parts of the movie.
It's interesting. A lot to say there because like I know this is technically a Captain America movie, but like this is basically an Avengers movie, right? And it feels like
Yeah,
almost as much
yeah.
an Iron Man movie as it does a Captain America movie.
Yeah, that's fair.
And like that scene in particular, like just the shot of like you can see like the weight of like all the stuff that's been happening to Iron Man, kind of like, and you feel like it's almost like corrupting him in a sense, but like he's definitely like kind of a man breaking down. If that makes sense.
I want to dive into that deep in a
Well,
little
I
bit,
think
but
we're- I
Dan
think
Tack,
we're
I
gonna
want
get
you to
into
get to
that,
that
yeah.
to that third act.
So yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how it went down in the comics or whatever because I've never read the Civil War arc or anything.
You've
But
never
I
seen the
thought-
Ken
Do you want
Burns
to know?
film.
Or
I thought, well, I'm sure you can tell me in a minute, but I thought that her third act really, like, I thought it would have been way cooler if the guy actually would have brought the other Winter Soldiers back and they would have had a big battle. Instead of monologuing at them, saying the only way that you can take down a nation is to get them to fight each other. And then he's like, I'm going to do that right now. You guys are going to fight each other. And then they do. Come on.
10 years from now, people are going to bring up like, remember that weird John Wayne Gacy type normal guy in Civil War that I guess was the antagonist all
Yes.
along? And people would be like, I don't know what you're talking about. Is it cool to just have a normal run-of-the-mill human causing this entire event?
Sure, but and I think if you would have just showed him the video and started the fight, that would have been different than actually telling these two intelligent heroes that I am going to bring your country down by having you guys fight. So go fight because of this. And then he just closes the little door like a supervillain. It's like whoa.
Well, so
You guys are smart. Like Tony Stark is a very intelligent man. He realizes what he's being motivated to do here.
but I don't think.
Could they have
But
done
the
this?
motivation I still think was good.
I
Like,
understand the motive-
Sort of bought into that, right?
I can get the motivation. I can get behind it. It's emotional. I can't get behind the fact that the supervillain literally tells them, "Go kill each other."
And
more or
uh,
less.
do they need that singular figure? Because even when he first popped into the movie, maybe I'm an idiot, but it's like, oh boy, he looks a lot like Winter Soldier. Is this just like Winter Soldier with a haircut? What is going on with this guy? And could they just have had some mysterious MacGuffin like, oh, we're going to revive this program, it's going to be automatic, and cut out that human figure entirely, and it would have been stronger?
Cut out the villain. so to
Whatever the
speak.
hell he was. Yeah.
He was the villain, and I think I don't know. He kind of did move the action along at some of the other scenes. Like they need him in that the scene with him activating the Winter Soldier again because they needed
Right.
some way to activate him, right?
I don't think it bothered you guys are talking about Zemo, which is
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
Baron Zemo in the comic. He's an actual character. He's like an actual supervillain, and
Oh,
like,
okay.
he's a bit more of like a larger than life figure in the comics. You know, a bit more menacing.
He's not just a
And
dweeb who
they
puts people in water.
Kind of grounded him a lot for this movie, which I don't know. I don't have a problem with necessarily. But because if you're just coming into it as like a movie fan, you might be like, "Oh, who's this dweeb?" Exactly, like who's this?
I didn't
just
think he was a
normal
dweeb.
dude.
I want to make that very clear. I thought he was not all villains have to be like apocalypse or anything. I get
Right,
that,
right.
But like
I thought the actor did a fine
I didn't even think
job,
he was
like,
understated. I thought he did his role very well. But the problem, like I said, the problem comes between if someone comes in here right now and says, "I'm going to take down Game Informer by having you guys fight each other," and then he just walks away because that's essentially what he did. Like
That's all
I-
it would
I
take,
get
though,
it.
Dan. We would jump
it's
at
just
each
so
other's throats.
I just don't think that those two heroes would have gone to like tried to kill each other based on the villain just telling them.
Okay, well, let's talk about that motivation a little bit because this is one of the big question marks in the build-up to this movie, I feel like, is how convincing is this fight going to be? How temporary is it going to feel? And I feel like they did almost as good of a job as they conceivably could have done for giving characters motivations. But the key ingredient for me, and it's so good, and this is all I want in this type of movie, is Robert Downey Jr.'s performance and him just being stressed out and really trying to argue like, hey, seriously, come on. Like there's a scene when he's talking to Captain America and he has tears in his eyes. He's like, just give me a break. Like, I'm just
the
trying
scene
to,
with the pens. Like,
yes, he's like, I'm just trying to keep everybody together. And when he said, give me a break, again, I got a little emotional. Like, I think Robert Downey Jr.'s performance in this is the best in his entire Marvel run. I am so in love with it. It's so good.
Well, I think we all agree that he is Iron Man at this point, and he does an amazing job at it. Like,
I would go beyond that. I think casting, I think this is probably cliche and late to the party, but casting Robert Downey Jr. to kick off this Marvel universe, I think might be the best casting decision in the history of Hollywood. You think of like what he spawned. Give me a more effective casting decision in the entire history of Hollywood.
I can't come up with that off the cuff like this. I'm not gonna look stupid, but like that's a really bold claim.
Or Harrison Ford is Indiana
I don't think it compares. I don't think it compares. I think the
All right,
importance.
well,
anyways,
you're gonna get some comments on that, I'm sure.
But
Yeah,
the
sure.
emotion, the emotion that Robert Downey Jr. conveys throughout this movie kind of undersells the overall theme, where the action is backed up so much by emotional moments and emotional beats, and a lot of that is through really effective use of close-ups, even during the action scenes. Like, there's a clip online that you can see where they're all trying to attack the Winter Soldier, kind of in that lobby area. If you watch that scene and just look at how they use close-ups to convey each character's reactions to everything that happens, masterful, just masterful. But getting back to the actual motivation stuff, like Robert Downey Jr. again at the end, during that fight when he's starting to go after Winter Soldier again, after that brutal scene where you see Winter Soldier choke out his mom, or it's implied, but
no, that's what he does.
Oh, yeah. But just the line, which could be seen as sappy, but where Iron Man just goes, he killed my mom. And it's not like a joke line, anything, but like
not.
It's sincere as all hell. Like, yeah, I'm going to try and fucking kill this guy. He killed my mom. Oh, it was good.
It's brutal. That's what I'm saying. Is like there's almost more emotional and like story arc to that character in this for Iron Man in this Captain America film than there was for Captain America.
Also, think about like the Pepper Potts. It's hinted. Hang on, Dan's rolling his eyes.
No, not.
No, but I really think that was an amazing job in that setup of just having the teleprompter as being like, okay, this is clearly a devastating thing for him.
Sure.
But then beyond that, having Iron Man so largely fueled by, we need to be in check because therefore I might be able to get back together with Pepper on his side, versus Captain America fueled by Peggy Carter dying and her final closing thoughts as conveyed through her niece. Just like both of these titans are fueled by this emotional, woman in their lives. It's really smart.
Yeah, they had good just elements, like close personal like character moments, like for each of those main two characters
that I gave a shit about, that hit me in the gut more than I imagined.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, exactly. Because I didn't care that. I haven't even watched the the Carter show.
Right.
I can't remember
X-Files? Chris Carter's?
Yeah, X-Files.
I'm a big fan.
But so I'm not like super attached to that character, but like when she died, I was like, oh, I guess that is kind of just the way he reacted. Like I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Or
like,
then
I
even
care about that a little
the
bit.
scene after that where
That's
you see
touching.
Black Widow just like giving Captain America a hug in that church. Like really smart emotional touches in this movie. Some of the smartest emotional moments, I think, in a big action movie that I've seen in a very long time.
And they set that up so well so that the time they get to that like big Act 2 battle in the airport and they're both sort of facing each other and you're like, oh, because they haven't actually fought
You actually
yet.
said that out loud in the theater.
Yeah, I was like, oh.
I mean, hey, I would. I'm gonna watch that like 20 times when it's on video.
Black Widow says the lines like, hey, Cap, you know what's about to happen, right? Like we've talked it out as much as we can. Like it's about to go down. Like it's like, really? I was kind of like, man, they did a really good job building up to that battle, and then it totally paid off. Which we've talked a ton about that battle.
But I think there's one thing in the battle we have to touch on quickly. My biggest surprise of the movie, and I forgot that it was like a rumor posted online that I forgot about quickly, but having Giant Man in the movie,
yes,
so much fun.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that.
It was
rumor.
super cool. It was a cool thing.
Highlight of the movie for
but
you
as
guys?
soon as he
Bringing Star Wars in there.
Disney, baby.
It was great. Yeah.
As soon as he started talking about it too, it was like, hey, I got this experiment. I was like, oh, they're going there. They're going to do Giant Man too. I was like, that's cool.
It was so much fun.
And then just to see him like, I kind of wish he'd like thrown more people around or something.
I love when he grabbed.
I think it was really good for what it was.
machine.
Yeah, that was really good.
I also love the moment when he was still Ant-Man, where he's like, oh, chuck the little growing thing at the truck. And he's like, I thought it was a water truck.
Yeah, and it's an
he ends up
explosive truck,
dousing
yeah.
War Machine in flames.
Yeah.
That's what I was talking about. I was like, this is a weird like tonal shift. It was
Yeah.
like, oh, this is suddenly an Ant-Man film, and then back to like Captain America.
Especially like when he's in Raft later on then, and Tony Stark's walking by and he's like, my dad told me never to, or like Hank Pym told me never to trust a Stark. And then Iron Man just goes, who are you? It just keeps,
It just keeps going.
I love it.
That was really good.
Again, just like, oh yeah, I guess these characters have never really met. That's fun.
Right.
Amazing that Iron Man's suit repaired itself after that
It's good,
airport
it's good
fight.
at that. It's good at that.
Well, I assume he just had a second suit.
Yeah, he does.
That's his
Oh,
thing,
is that what it is? I
We,
guess
I,
that's
see,
a
I'm
million
willing to
suits.
suspend disbelief for a lot of things.
Totally. You have to.
It's a comic book movie, for God's sakes. But
Right.
like, just again, I just think the last part with that motivation to get them to kill each other just didn't work for me.
I don't know if that bugged me quite as much, but one thing that I was confused about is like, why did he want to know these other Winter Soldier characters and where they were? Because he just went there and killed them.
Yeah, I'm
Like, it just
assuming
seemed
that's
like
just
a
where the
weird-
video was, because that was the Winter Soldier's assassination of the parents.
Did he hate them too?
interesting.
Like he wanted to kill the Winter Soldiers?
Well, he did kill them, yeah.
So that must
I
have
think
been
he
his-
explicitly says, I
Yeah.
took them out,
Yeah,
and they all
yeah.
had bullet holes in their
Okay,
heads.
so he wanted to take them out, and he wanted to take the Avengers out, and he was just trying to work them.
Well,
together.
also, how...
He's like, I could make his whole point was like, you can lay siege on a country, but the only way to, really take it out is to destabilize it from within. The whole point, right? Sowing the seeds of distrust within
Got it.
the group.
Some of that though was him talking to Black Panther later on. Like I don't know, it didn't strike me at the time of like him like, oh here, let me lay out my master plan so much.
There's a little bit of that.
He pretty
a
much
little
does
bit of
that.
What I'm confused about
I thought.
is, and maybe I missed it, or I didn't understand how Captain America knew this thing about Winter Soldier's assassination from
Correct.
1991 and why he would know that.
I didn't know that.
Is it
understand
ever
that
explicitly
either.
said in one of the other films?
It can't be.
I don't think it has been.
I mean, he was in the ice in 1991, so it's just a matter of he was briefed on the concept that
mean, we
the
can-
Winter Soldier killed some people.
we
He
assume
would have
that
been briefed on it later, or it's
Bucky
like,
told him,
or
I mean,
Bucky told him
Very possible, I'd say.
During
Once
the
I
film,
killed some people in a car.
off screen. I don't, or like
What would he say?
Hey, by
He's
the
like,
way,
that's Tony. I killed his
I
parents.
know I killed Tony Stark's parents.
But
or something
but
like
Cap
that.
said he didn't know that it was his parents. He says, "I knew, but I didn't know it was your parents."
Did he? I
think
thought he
so.
said.
Did he? Man, that's just weird.
I'm pretty sure.
All right.
I thought he said like I knew, I didn't know who, and then he's like, "But did you know?" And he's like, "Yes," which implies like, well,
I think it's. Yeah, I
know.
don't.
It's. I'd have to go see it again.
Yeah,
I guess.
I don't want to extrapolate something incorrectly here.
Do you guys think? Do you guys want to talk at all about Black Panther?
No, we're good. We're moving on.
Okay.
I will be a contrarian a little bit with the Black Panther stuff. I
Okay.
feel like everybody wants to love Black Panther. I've seen so much hype for him online for people who have seen
you?
the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, people are like, they nail Black Panther. It's great.
I thought they did a
As-
pretty good job.
As not a comic book guy though, like it's cool that there's like an African superhero and he has his own movie coming along the way. I don't know if
Yes.
I'm excited about it. Like his claws are dumb. His personality, I think the
No,
actor does a fine job,
they
but
did a
like,
pretty good job with him.
but he's just incredibly flat. It's just a guy looking grim with a well-trimmed beard, going like, "I don't know about this." It's
I mean,
like,
but-
what is cool? What is
But a
everybody
lot
excited about?
a lot of superheroes are not that many-sided.
How much
to be
time
honest
was
with
it?
you.
Is it because he never joked? Is that the thing?
I think it's a big
The
part
way
of
to
it.
your heart is humor. Is that it?
Yes, I love Marvel films for the humor, and
Okay.
I'm a little bit. I mean, Ryan Coogler, amazing. Creed was really great. So the standalone film, I mean, just the pedigree behind the filmmaking, I'm interested in it. But as far as a character and like a action hero in the future, I don't know if I'm excited about more Black Panther.
You'll get to see a lot more cool stuff, I'm sure, in his own film. Like the thing is, like these are all sort of one notes for the people that aren't Captain America or Iron Man on either side of the Civil War, right?
I thought it was a great introduction.
Scarlet
Plus,
Witch throwing things around. Woo!
There's a scene where he's talking. Is like, hey, I'm basically a monarch of this really powerful nation, rich nation, and like I'm this like
warrior.
yeah warrior, like passed down to a heritage. Like I'm the ultimate warrior of my people.
Actually, yeah.
Like I was like, that's a really cool concept for a character in my mind.
His storyline throughout it felt the most tacked on.
It felt tacked on, but I also thought it was like one of the more fleshed out ones because most of the other characters are already established, right? They had to like
Right.
establish him a little bit more.
Yeah, there's a lot of lifting they had to do.
The
What's
fact
with
that they weaved that into another story that was completely going on. I
They
thought
did stick it right into a
that
thread.
really
Yeah.
well.
so the post credits thing, we get to see
There's
the.
two.
That's right. Well, let's break
First
down the
one.
first one.
Sure.
So Cap and his team are living in Wakanda now, or that's where they have their base. That's where Winter Soldier's frozen, and there's a statue of Red 13's dad out in the
right.
forest there,
Oh,
crying materia.
That's a good one.
Well, I guess I don't know if they were living there, but
Okay,
they're
okay.
stationing Winter Soldier there. They're keeping him there for sure.
Right. Okay.
Until the next film, presumably, when they need to thaw him out.
yeah,
right?
he'll be back.
Yeah, they
The
had
Winter
a-
Soldier always returns.
Well, it's interesting. I read an interview with the Russo brothers directors talking about how the setup for Infinity War, they wanted to leave things separate and not unified at the end of this film because they wanted Infinity War. They compared it to, like, we want it to be Pearl Harbor. where like you're not prepared for it and you have to scramble.
Sure.
Oh,
it makes a lot of
So,
sense then
that's a cool
with the
idea.
build-up. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
That makes a lot more sense about how they handled the end then, yeah.
What do you guys think about the second teaser?
I thought it was,
Spider-Man.
I didn't, honestly, I thought both the teasers were pretty underwhelming.
They were fine. Is that what you're gonna say?
underwhelming in
Really?
comparison to teasers of the
Compared
past.
to like them
that show
eating
off like
shawarma or something?
my favorite.
Like,
Okay,
what you-
everyone brings up the shawarma thing, but I like the teasers that actually show like, oh gosh, new character coming out in
Or what about the
movie.
one in Ant-Man? Was just.
I'm
like
not
a
saying
clip
they're
from
all
this
amazing.
film?
I'm just saying these particular two were
Okay,
underwhelming.
I
to
thought
me.
these two were good. I thought the one in Wakanda was good, solid.
Did you
And-
assume that? I mean, okay, sure.
But the Spider, I mean, maybe it's because I'm a Spider-Man fan, but the one at the very end of the film, which is Spider-Man centric, like got excited for. I was like, this is exciting to see, like the character, and like
yeah.
there's a hint of like what we can expect from the actual film.
This is what I want to know because I think that Tom Holland did a great job. Like I think it was a super fun character to see. Even like the first scene in Queens, it goes on. Like the pacing really drops in that film, but you can't get away from it. You have to stay there because it's so much fun to build up that character and introduce him. But what did the projection on the ceiling imply? I didn't understand that.
Well, Spider-Man in the comics has like a spider light, which he
what?
only really
Light.
I don't know if that's the official name. He doesn't like, really use it that often anymore, but like he'll project like basically his face kind of like as a light.
Like a bat
occasionally.
signal?
Yeah, but not really like in the sky. He'll just like if punks are fighting in the alley, he'll project it on the ground or something, and then he shows up. That's the thing is
That's
like,
what that was?
and so
I
that
didn't know it did. Did you know what that was, Ted?
I did not.
But there's other things going on there. It looks like there's some like Tony Stark tech in there. So maybe it has some other functionality.
Okay.
So I don't know what that is.
But it had some
seems like
significance.
Tony Stark's going to be in the next film.
Yeah, no, they announced it
So,
already, yeah.
Which will be kind of fun to see. like,
Yeah, more of
their
those two together.
relationship.
I loved, and I was surprised by like the Marissa Tomei relationship with Robert Downey Jr. The fact that he's like talking about how hot she is, like that's
Yeah.
her aunt. She's so
Oh,
young.
she
I love
still
that
looks
they-
pretty good.
She's doing all right. What about Vision and Scarlet Witch? There was more screen time devoted to them than I expected.
they had downplayed roles, a little bit more screen time than I expected for this particular film.
Yeah.
They both were pretty much one note though.
Well, and
That's fine.
They didn't have
That's
a ton
fine.
of
This is a
time
freaking
with
comic
them.
movie. Yeah, I agree.
And which is surprising that they didn't give maybe Vision more time because I thought he was fairly underdeveloped in the last Avengers film. So
but at least
Vision, what does
now,
he do?
at least
Does
now
he-
I understand that he can like dodge punches and stuff. Whereas before it was like green magic stuff in Age of Ultron. I didn't really
Yes.
understand, but like seeing him like phase through walls and like being super hard or like punches going through him when he was fighting Hawkeye, I thought that
Right.
was better example of what he can do. Also with Scarlet Witch, her in the beginning of the movie making some joke about like, I can move stuff with my mind, right?
Yeah.
I thought the movie did a good job of setting up subtly how insanely important she is and how insanely powerful.
right.
Also, another great emotional moment in the beginning when she blows up Crossbones.
Yeah, Crossbones.
When he blows up and
Surprised
takes out that
Crossbones
building.
was in the film.
Yeah.
That was a,
like, oh,
he was
Crossbones.
in and out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
well, I
seeing,
was surprised they killed him too. I was like, wow.
He was there for a couple seconds.
but seeing Scarlet Witch's reaction to what she did, I thought was another like amazing bit of a performance from an actress that I was not that impressed by in Age of Ultron. But just seeing her like cover her mouth in horror with what she just did is like, God, that's so good.
I'm still not sure if she's doing the accent well. Like,
It seems like
there's-
it's lighter than it
there's-
was in Age of Ultron.
Sometimes I'm like, okay, that's an accent. And there's the occasional line where it's like, wait, is she just talking? I don't know.
Is she just talking?
Is
I'm
she
with
just
you.
talking with words?
Yeah.
Oh,
Hell
But she
Hydra.
did well. I thought everybody in the film did well, and then there was nobody bad in the film.
There was not a single bad person. It's an amazing piece of summer entertainment that they're able to pack so many storylines in there, and it's as cohesive as it is.
And so many fun action scenes, and we didn't really talk about the third like action fight, which I thought was still a lot of fun.
But yeah, between the three of them.
Yeah, just between Winter Soldier, Cap, and Iron Man.
Yeah, they threw that shield around a lot.
They did. That shield got some screen time.
Yeah.
I thought it was really good.
Yes,
I'm
very
gonna go out on a
impressed.
limb and say it was good.
Not as funny out of the gate as I was expecting. A little bit more closer to Winter Soldier in tone, I guess. I was expecting more of an Avengers vibe, but it makes sense. But I'm very, very curious to see where it goes from here on out.
I was a little worried when Joss Whedon stepped away from the Avengers franchise. I was like, man, who are they going to get to replace him? And like, he's kind of like one of a kind. And like, I think the Russo brothers. I'm not worried anymore. I'll just say that. Like, I do think it'll be a little bit of a new tone because it's not going to be as funny like you're saying, but I think it'll still be a really strong, fun film.
Yeah. And my God, if they don't bring in the Defenders, in Infinity War. I really thought they were going to be in
hoping
this.
like just a tease of like Daredevil or something. Like
if they're
maybe,
going around
maybe they could have put that
recruiting,
tease at the end. You know,
I want to see those
instead of
worlds
the
cross
spider
over.
light.
Yeah,
projected a picture of a Daredevil on the screen instead of just a dumb spider.
Wouldn't that have been
face.
cool? Or like seeing
see him in the
Daredevil
background.
actually come up, or like you know he's there,
That'd be
right?
great if he was in the Spider-Man film. Actually, just
Right.
Like in the
Maybe
like
he will
at
be.
some point. Yeah, maybe he will be. That'd be great.
All right, but thank you so much for talking about this wonderful movie, everybody, and we'll meet back here for Infinity War.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
Bye.